roll.
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Burnett,
Present.
Mr. Goldstein,
Here.
Ms. Johnson,
Present.
Ms. Najilski Eichner,
Here.
Ms. Smith,
Here.
Ms. Ayers,
Present.
Mr. Uvelman, Ms. Revoluz.
Here, if you can hear me.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Young,
Here.
Mr. Kites,
Here.
thank you. Mr. McMurray, Miss McMurray. I'm so
Miss
sorry.
McMurray is present.
I'm sorry, Jen. Miss Alterman,
Here.
Mr. Keegan,
Here.
Mr. Livingston,
Here.
Ms. Shanahan.
Here.
14 present, we have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the acceptance of minutes. First, the regular meeting of November 9th, 2021. Do I have a motion? Ms. Revoluz moves. Do we have any corrections, deletions, or additions? I don't see any hands, so hearing none, all in favor of the approval of the minutes as submitted? All opposed? Abstentions? Ms. Ayers abstains, and I think that's all. Okay. next-
No,
Mayor, Ms. McMurray and Mr. Goldstein.
Okay, I can't see their hands because.
all the new people.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Next item on the agenda is the special meeting of November 16th, the approval of the minutes or acceptance of the minutes. Do I have a motion? Ms. Revoluz again. Any corrections, additions, deletions? Seeing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes as submitted? Any opposed? Abstentions? Ms. Ayers abstains. I can't see any other hand because I don't have anybody on my screen. Ms. Najilski Eichner abstains. Anybody else?
If I can make a recommendation, Mayor, if you're not on the council, if you can shut off your video right now and until you're speaking or your part comes up, that would help the mayor to see everyone.
Right, thank you. I appreciate that, Larry. Okay, the motion carries with 2 abstentions, Ms. Ayers and Ms. Najilski Eichner. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the special meeting of November 30th. I'm sorry, November 20th, 2021. Do I have a motion, Ms. Young? Do I have any corrections, omissions?
Yeah.
Omissions? Mr. Goldstein.
My name is not included on the list of the roll, even though it should be.
Okay, so we need to add Mr. Goldstein as in attendance. Any other corrections? Okay, all in favor of approval of the minutes with as corrected? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Next item, special meeting of November 30th, 2021. Do I have a motion? Mr. Revoluz. Any corrections, deletions, omissions, additions? Seeing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes as submitted? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is public participation. Mr. Manzi, do we have anybody wishing to address the council?
I do not see any. Oh, yes, we do. If anyone else would like to address the council, please raise your hand electronically. If you're dialing in by phone, hit *9 on your phone. And then when I call on you, *6 to unmute. The first person we have is Christina. If you unmute, Christina. You have 3 minutes.
Christina,
Oh,
Christina, if you'll please state your full name and address, please.
Oh, sure. Christina Dustin, 7 Dorset Road in Norwalk.
Okay, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you. So I had a question. So I was going over the minutes. Let me see if I can move it while it was under the Health and Public Safety Committee, point 2A. It says that there may be a motion to authorize the mayor to execute any documents necessary to maybe accept funds for about 500,000 from March 1st to July 15th, 2023 for the detection, response, and surveillance. I was just curious, does that mean that we're going to be testing and you're anticipating all the way until 2023? And in addition to, is it assumed and or planned that the emergency powers are going to be extended? Because I know the funds come from if there's a state of an emergency, or does the state already have that money?
Well, the emergency powers extended would be something up to the state legislature, and that would come before them. As far as the money, that's for the stated purpose of helping to respond and prevent the COVID-19.
Okay, because I didn't know if that was, because I know you talked with Senator Duff, he's obviously in Norwalk, and he was pushing to extend the emergency powers. So I didn't know if you spoke with him or had an idea if he was going to push that again and to receive those funds. And then I was hoping you could explain what does it mean by the surveillance? Is that in regards to possibly the vaccine passport or something that you do already?
I don't know if we have somebody from the health department here who'd like to expound upon that, but not necessarily, no.
Mayor, Deanna's here if you want me to talk.
Yeah, please.
Good evening. I'm Deanna Diamore, the health director for the city of Norwalk. So this is funding that's coming from the Centers of Disease Control at the national level that's been given to state health departments to then provide to local health departments to continue to support the response to COVID-19. And so they've guaranteed funding through July 2023. And this is to support contact tracing efforts to keep to help the spread of the disease and to help support existing surveillance systems related to the state has contact tracing surveillance system. So we're notified of positive cases so that we can respond.
Thank you, Deanna.
Okay, so the surveillance is meaning the contact tracing?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manzi, do we have any other, somebody's, we're getting feedback. I don't know if everybody should try to.
Yes, I'm muting.
Mute.
I'm muting everyone now.
Okay.
We do not have anyone else that wishes to speak at this time.
All right. Do we have any council person that has correspondence from a constituent that needs to be read into the record? Thank you. Ms. Dixon, do we have any correspondence that you have received that needs to be read into the record?
No correspondence, Mayor, none.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is resignations and appointments. If you look at your agenda, you'll see that we have several resignations, most because they have to resign because of a new position. Marilyn Altman from the Zoning Board of Appeals as an alternate, Michael Harden from the Parking Authority, Paul Zeiss, Board of Building Appeals, Josh Goldstein, Zoning Commission, and Sherry Brown, Norwalk Housing Authority. Next, we have appointments. The first one being Marilyn Altman, Zoning Board of Appeals as a regular member. Do I have a motion? Ms. Smith moves. Any comments, Ms. Smith or any other council member?
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to move the appointment of Marilyn Altman as a regular on the Zoning Board of Appeals. She has been serving as an alternate. And in addition to her work on the Zoning Board of Appeals, she also is very active in Norwalk as a volunteer for the Carver Foundation, the Mentor Program, and also a precinct election officer. So we thank you for your service, and I strongly recommend her for appointment.
Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor of Marilyn Altman as a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals as a regular? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations and thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, or next appointment, is Alexandra Salazzo on the Fair Housing Advisory Commission. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to move her name.
Beth?
Yes, Alexandra has a long history of working with Family and Children Agency as well as Revive Center for Wellness, and is a natural for the Fair Housing Authority. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Next appointment is Angela Wasuna on the Norwalk Housing Authority. Do I have a motion? Mr. Goldstein.
Yes, I would like to nominate Ms. Wasuna for the Norwalk Housing Authority. She is someone who is currently a vice president at Pfizer and is someone who was previously an assistant general counsel in Pfizer's legal division, and received her law degree from the University of Nairobi and as advanced law degrees from McGill University, Canada, and Harvard Law School. I think she'd be a perfect candidate for this position, and so I move her name into nomination.
Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Next, we have several appointments to.
Mr. Mayor, if I may I make a motion to table the appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission as a group? I think it's an important commission. I think it's something that we should discuss, not only with leadership, but amongst the council members, especially maybe my colleagues who are new to the council. So I would like to make a motion to table the appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission, all of them, until our next common council meeting, which I believe is December 28th.
Well, I don't believe we're having a second meeting in December, but we'll figure that out. The motion to table is not debatable. Mr. Keegan has made a motion to table all the appointments to the newly combined Planning and Zoning Commission. All in favor? Opposed? So if I'm looking correctly, the in favor was Diana Revolus and Mr. Keegan. Motion to table does not pass. So the next, now we go to the Planning and Zoning Commission appointments, the combined Planning and Zoning. I'm going to ask Mr. Livingston to put these forward through a motion. Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move all of these respective members of the Planning and Zoning Commission forward as a group, actually two groups, one of regular members and one of alternates. For regular members, we have Brian Baxendale, Francis D'Amiglio, Steve Ferguson, Nick Cantor, Tammy Langalis, Michael Musak, Richard Rowena, Louis Schulman, and Galen Wells. And for three alternates, Zequin Jordan Byron, Hector Pashas, and Darius Williams. So just to speak for a moment, this is the final step in the recombination of the Planning and Zoning Commissions that was approved by the council last term. And what that recombination provided was that there would be established a new Planning and Zoning Commission effective January 11th of next year, to be made up of 9 regular members and 3 alternates. What I've just read you for the 9 regular members. Those are 9 existing members of both the Planning and Zoning Commission. We have 4 members from the current Zoning Commission, including the chair, Lou Schulman, and 5 members from the Planning Commission, including Mr. Miglio as chair of that commission. These candidates that I've just mentioned are all very experienced in both planning and zoning. They also reflect all districts and backgrounds throughout the city. We have at least 2 members of every district. And I think it's critical that we ensure the needed continuity and expertise that these 9 members bring to this new commission. They have the experience. They've been through zoning matters and planning matters in the past, and I think they'll bring that experience to the new commission. And I welcome and thank the new members, the alternate members, for their willingness to serve. And I think they will all do a tremendous job. And I thank them for their commitment and service to the city.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Any further comment? Ms.
I was in the motion. I wasn't opposing, I'm sorry. I agree with that we should have more information, but I wasn't opposing. I was just kind of going. I didn't mean to vote
Okay.
that way.
So we'll change you from a nay to a yay. Okay. Any further, Ms. Young?
You're on mute.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that I voted to move this committee forward because I think it is critical and important, as Mr. Livingston indicated. But I also understand Mr. Keegan's perspective on this, and I would say, as being the lone Republican and not being privy to the information, I think as we get it, and not having the advantage of having other representatives to view this information with, and the lack of time. We knew that this had to be moved forward quickly, and there'd been a lot of planning behind it. But I just want to say congratulations to everybody, and we look forward to the new Planning and Zoning Commission doing the work of the city and doing it well. And congratulations to the alternates, one of which represents District B, which we're very happy to see Ms. Byron in that position, and Darius Williams, man who's been very engaged in the community, and it's great to see young people stay engaged in this process. It's not something that a lot of people raise their hands to get involved with, so we're very thankful of that. And so that's all I wanted to say, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Any further comment? Ms. Revoluz? You're not muted, but we're not able to hear you.
My computer, I'm screaming. I literally have to scream. So I'm sorry. I just want to back what Darlene said and just want to, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Young said. I do agree with Councilman Keegan about the whole, I do understand that time is of essence, but I do want to say, because of time, and particularly because of certain names that I'm seeing that do have and have done so much for Norwalk, stressing Darius Williams. This is why I'm not going against moving this, but I do understand that I hope that we should be more have more time next time to be more engaged in who we put in such an important position. But I do appreciate the names that we have, the representation that we have, and I do hear and see you, Councilman Keegan, as well as what you're saying. And back Councilwoman Young. Thank you, and that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Revoluz. Any other comments or? Seeing none, all in favor of the appointments to the new Planning and Zoning Commission of the regulars and alternates? Opposed? Abstentions? Mr. Keegan abstains, and there were everybody else was in favor. And congratulations, and we look forward to some good things, and hopefully making the navigation through our city process a little bit easier, a little bit more efficient. And I think this is something that we've wanted for quite some time. And I want to thank Mr. Livingston and others who have helped take the lead in this. So we appreciate that. Next item on the agenda or appointment is Mary Peniston to the Redevelopment Agency. Do I have a motion? Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am honored to bring forward the name of Mary Peniston for the Redevelopment Agency. Mary Peniston is a seasoned professional with years of experience and a proven success record of working within communities to identify and develop programs to enhance the development of children and families. Mary has an educational background from Harvard and Princeton and will be a welcomed and valued addition to the Redevelopment Agency. So I'm proud to bring forward Mary's name for this appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Any other comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, and congratulations to all the Planning and Zoning Commission members as well. Next, we have reappointments. The first one is David Westmoreland, reappointment to the Redevelopment Agency. Do I have a motion? Ms. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is my honor and privilege to move Mr. David Westmoreland forward to serve again on the Redevelopment Agency. David lives in District B, and all I can really say about David is he is the quintessential Norwalk person. He gives his all and is very dedicated to the city of Norwalk. You know, we can read through his resume and see how varied his background is, but he also chairs on the second taxing district as the chair of that district commissioner. He's been on the historical commission since 2009, and he's the director of the Norwalk Historical Society since 2007, and treasurer of Laura Raymond Homes. I don't know when he sleeps, when he eats, but he must do it under the cover of darkness or night or something. But he is an amazing person, and I count it an honor to have served with him on different boards and commissions, just being able to glean from his experience and knowledge. So I move Mr. Westmoreland forward for the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Any further comments? Ms. Smith.
Yes, I'd just like to add that I'm not sure I know anyone who loves Norwalk, is committed to Norwalk, and takes such good care of Norwalk as David Westmoreland. And I just wholeheartedly support this reappointment.
Thank you. Further comment? Seeing none, all in favor of Mr. Westmoreland as the reappointment to redevelopment? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations to Mr. Westmoreland. Thank you for his service. Next two items we can move together. Zoning Board of Appeals, current members reappointments of Andy Conroy and Lee Levy. Do I have a motion? Mr. Keegan.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And if I may just backtrack a little bit, my sincere congratulations to the members of the new Planning and Zoning Commission. I know you're going to do a great job for our city, as Ms. Young and Ms. Revolou did indicate. I was just more concerned about the process, and I hope that we can, spend a little more time in the future. But in speaking of Mr. Conroy and Mr. Levy, it is my honor to move them forward as members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. It's not like I attend enough meetings, but from time to time, I do poke into things like the Zoning Board of Appeals. And just recently, I did see Mr. Levy and Mr. Conroy in action with the new Cranberry School. and how they dealt with that. I was extremely impressed with their diligence and how they handled it, and how they had the best interests of the city as well as the appellants at heart. And I know they do a great job, and I expect that they'll continue to do a great job for the city, and it's my honor to move them forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keegan. Any further comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Ms. Alterman abstains. And that looks, okay, so 1 abstention and 13 in favor. So I know we have, congratulations. I know we have Mr. Conroy here. Congratulations, Mr. Conroy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I don't know if Mr. Levy is here, but congratulations to both of them, and thank you for their willingness to serve. So that brings us to the end of appointments and reappointments. Next item is just mayor's remarks. I just have a couple of brief remarks. As you know, we are in the middle of a budget season, working very diligently to work with the department heads to ensure that we put together a fair budget that is something that we can all live with. We're working very closely with the Board of Education to determine what their needs may be, and having regular meetings. I have another meeting tomorrow, a joint meeting, to talk about the budget and what the needs are and how we can put together a budget. As I said, that's fair and not overtaxing. So we're looking forward to getting that done. We also, as you know, over the past couple of weeks, we've seen a spike in the increase of COVID cases, a spike in the number of hospitalizations. The hospitalizations, 78% of the people who are hospitalized are unvaccinated. So this is getting to be a pandemic of the unvaccinated. And we're doing all we can to provide vaccine clinics. There's one this weekend, Saturday, at the Norwalk Public Library. We have one, I believe, Thursday night, where we're going to, we had one this afternoon for the 5 to 12-year-old children. And we're going to be continuing to have the vaccine clinics so we can get as many people vaccinated as possible. Today, the Lieutenant Governor stopped in Norwalk as she is on a statewide tour trying to encourage people to get vaccinated. And the, we had a conversation, we got rid of polio and the measles through a vaccine process. So vaccines do work. Masking and social distancing, we believe some of the spike is due in part to the Thanksgiving holiday, where people might have gotten together in large groups. We have Christmas and New Year's coming up, and we don't know what to expect after that. But we're encouraging people to do the right thing, do the things that we know work, and hopefully get our arms around this so we can mitigate it to the greatest degree possible. Tonight, unfortunately, at Brian McMahon High School, they're having, not unfortunately, at Brian McMahon High School, they're having the Poinsettia concert. It's a wonderful, wonderful performance every year that they do just before the Christmas holiday. Unfortunately, we are missing it. I know that we all received invitations to go and see the performance. And unfortunately, it is on a night that we're having a council meeting. Tomorrow night is the candlelight at Norwalk High School. And I know we have invitations to that. I will be attending with my wife. That's also a wonderful, wonderful performance. Both Norwalk High School and Brian McMahon have wonderful and creative performances throughout the year as well, with their music program, with the plays that they put on. If you get a chance to go, both of them, you'll feel that you're in a Broadway play. It's just so amazing. And the talent of our young people through the music program is really quite impressive. So if you ever have a chance to go, please think about it and go. I think you'll be quite impressed. Next, we have, obviously, we have the holiday coming up. I don't know if Mr. Livingston will announce whether or not we're going to have the second council meeting in December, but I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I want to wish everybody a Happy Kwanzaa. And I want to wish everybody in our Jewish community who celebrated Hanukkah, and now Hanukkah is over, but I hope they had a happy, peaceful, and a Hanukkah time. So having said all that, I will turn the floor over to Mr. Livingston. Mr. Livingston, the Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And let me just say first off, I wish everybody a happy holidays as well. And the meeting on December 28th will be canceled. And excuse me, I have a kitten that's climbing all over me now. Last week, the council issued a statement regarding the use of racist language in the school, and I'd like to read that statement now for the record. Norwalk prides itself on being a diverse city where all are welcome. The Common Council is aware of 2 allegations of Norwalk Public School employees using racial slurs. While we cannot comment on personnel matters, the council strongly affirms its belief in the dignity of each of its residents and the expectation that every city employee will treat every resident with respect at all times. This includes an obligation not to use hate speech, racial slurs, or any form of derogatory language about any group of people. The council is committed to personnel policies that make that expectation clear to all employees and hold them accountable for any violations. Thank you. Now I'll turn to other regular
Excuse me,
council
Mr. Mayor,
business.
I'd like to add a statement to that.
Please.
The intergenerational relationships was helped build and strengthen individuals and communities are extremely valuable, especially in our current environment. Students look to our teachers and staff for guidance and direction as they begin to formulate their own beliefs, feelings, and perceptions. We must have a zero tolerance approach, which includes immediate termination if allegations prove to be true within our school system as it relates to inappropriate speech of any type, which could have a long-lasting impact on our students. I encourage the Board of Education and all city departments to regularly review our policies and practices with all employees to ensure a clear understanding and agreement is in place to maintain a respectful community for us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett.
All right, I will now turn to some housekeeping items. The first item is the adoption of the council rules. These are the rules that have been most recently adopted on November 19th, 2019. And I'll just call for a vote on adoption of those rules. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes unanimously. The second item is the announcement of council appointments. These are appointments to various commissions pursuant to which the council has the designates individuals. For the Maritime Aquarium, we're announcing the reappointment of Ms. Shanahan and Ms. Young. For the Water Pollution Control Authority, announcing Mr. Keegan as a reappointment. For the Arts Commission, it'll be Elizabeth Tardif and Heidi Alterman. And I will again be rejoining the Historical Commission. So those are the appointments for the council. The next item is the organization of Common Council committees. We have a resolution in our agenda. I would like to make a motion to table items 1 and 2 of the resolution itself to the meeting in January. So all in favor of tabling those 2 items, please indicate by raising your hand. Anybody opposed? Nora, is that Nora, Ms. Eigner? Okay, any abstentions? Ms. Young, okay, so we have, I guess it'd be 12 in favor, 1 opposed and 1 abstention. Thank you. So now I will read the resolution with the 1 remaining item, which is the resolution concerning the renaming of certain Common Council standing committees. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Norwalk, the council desires to rename certain of its standing Standing Committee for the purpose of clarifying the legislative purview and advisory function of such committee. And whereas acting pursuant to section 1-189 and 1-197 of the Charter of the City of Norwalk, as well as the parliamentary authority set forth in the rules of the Common Council, City of Norwalk, Connecticut, adopted November 26, 1985, as amended and adopted February 13, 2019, and November 19, 2019, and Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure, 2010, by a majority vote of the council members present and voting. Now therefore be it resolved by the council that effective as of this date, the Planning Committee of the council shall hereinafter be named the Economic and Community Development Committee. I'll now call for a vote unless there are any comments on that. Okay, all in favor indicate by raising your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the matter passes unanimously. And with that, Mayor, I think that is it. We'll now turn to the consent calendar, which will be read by me. So I will start with item 7A, 1A, Health and Public Safety Committee. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept grant funds from Optimus Healthcare, Inc. for the purpose of providing special supplemental nutrition services in accordance with the Connecticut WIC program plan in the amount of $291,375 for the period October 1, 2021 through September 30, 2022. 1B, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, or amendments as may be necessary to implement the WIC program services for the period October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022. 2A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept funds from the Connecticut Department of Public Health in the amount of $495,935.38 for the period beginning March 1st, 2022 through July 15th, 2023 for the enhanced detection, response, surveillance, and prevention of COVID-19. 2B, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, or amendments as may be necessary to implement enhanced detection, response, surveillance, and prevention of COVID-19 activities for the period March 1, 2022 through July 15th, 2023. Item 3, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements and other documents necessary to annually apply and accept grant funds from the state of Connecticut, acting through its Department of Transportation for the Highway Safety Project DUI Enforcement Program for Mutual Police Department, commencing fiscal year 2022. Item 7B, Planning Committee. Item 1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement between the city of Norwalk and Vanessa Hagen-Bruslin, Inc. for the Seaview Avenue Corridor Preliminary Engineering Conceptual Design Services in a total amount not to exceed $32,000, account noted. Item 7C, Land Use and Building Management. Item 1A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Insalco Corporation for various furniture items for the Jefferson Elementary School Renovators New Project for a total sum of $53,397.27, account noted. 1B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue change orders on purchase order for a total not to exceed $3,000. Item 2A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Lakeshore Learning Materials LLC for various furniture items for the Jefferson Elementary School Renovators New Project for a total sum of $8,217.44, account noted. 2B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue change orders on purchase order for a total not to exceed $1,500. Item 3A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Monitor Equipment Co. Inc. for various furniture items for the Jefferson Elementary School Renovators New Project for a total sum of $5,088, account noted. 3B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue change orders on purchase order for a total not to exceed $1,000. 4A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Red Thread Spaces LLC for various furniture items for the Jefferson Elementary School Renovators New Project for a total sum of $20,107.15, account noted. Item 4B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue change orders on purchase order for a total not to exceed $2,000. 5A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to WB Mason Co. Inc. for various furniture items for the Jefferson Elementary School Renovators New Project for a total sum of $602,651, account noted. 5B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue change orders on purchase order for a total not to exceed $30,132. 6A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Connecticut Communications State Contract 18PSX0097 for the telephone system for the Jefferson Elementary School renovating new project for a total sum of $19,858, account noted. 6B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue change orders on purchase order for a total not to exceed $2,000. Item 7A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Raptor Technologies LLC for the visitor management system for the Jefferson Elementary School renovating new project for a total sum of $2,395, account noted. Item 7B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue change orders on purchase order for a total not to exceed $1,000. Item 8A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to E Plus Technology, State Contract 18PSX0202 for computer networking electronics from the Jefferson Elementary School renovators new project for a total sum of $113,171.02, account noted. 8B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue change orders on purchase order for a total not to exceed $6,000. Item 9, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to renew the license agreement with the property owner at 195 Liberty Square for the use of an abutting area approximately 10 feet by 14 feet for the continued use of an outdoor walk-in refrigerator freezer. Agreement period shall be retroactive from November 1st, 2021 and ending October 31st, 2026 for an annual amount of $3,150. Item 7D, Public Works Committee. Item 1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into a subordination agreement with the head of Harbor South LLC per terms of the Memorandum of Assistant Corporation Counsel, Darren L. Callahan, dated October 27, 2021. Item 2, technical correction of the Common Council action, September 14, 2021. Item 7C4, to add accounts designated for Olmsted Tree and Shrub Care Company LLC for the supply and planting of trees and shrubs. Count numbers noted. 3, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a sole source purchase order to Cargill for treated road salt for snow and ice control. Pricing not to exceed $87 per ton for normal and after hours deliveries effective for the 2021-22 winter season, account noted. Item 4, technical correction of the Common Council action, September 14th, 2021. Item 7C3, to add accounts designated for the Grasso Companies LLC, First Amendment for Project PM 2021-1 Pavement Management Program, account noted. Item 5, technical correction for the Common Council action, September 14th, 2021. Item 7C6, to add accounts designated for Onaman Kirby LLC for Project 4048 on-call surveying services. Item 6, technical correction of the Common Council action, September 8, 2020. Item 7A5, to allocate $300,000 for use on the storm sewer separation project and accounts designated for M. Rodano Inc. for Project DRG 2020-1 on-call drainage improvements at various locations using WPCA account number 0920 4062 5777 CO 361. Item 7E, Recreation, Parks, and Cultural Affairs. Item 1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter an agreement with the Whittingham Cancer Center for the use of Calf Pasture Beach and immediate surrounding grounds by the Whittingham Cancer Center for their Whittingham Cancer Center Walk and Run to be held on Saturday, May 14th, 2022 from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Set up to begin at 5 a.m. with tear down no later than 1 p.m. Approximate attendance 1,500 to 2,000 people. Item 2, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into an agreement with the Alzheimer's Association for the use of Calf Pasture Beach and immediate surrounding grounds by Alzheimer's Association Connecticut for their Walk to End Alzheimer's to be held on Sunday, October 9, 2022 from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Set up to begin at 5:30 a.m. with a tear down no later than 1 p.m. Approximate attendance 1,500 people. Item 7F, Finance and Claim Committee. Item 1, accept and approve the report of the Claims Committee dated November 18th, 2021 and December 9th, 2021. Item 2, for informational purposes only, narrative on tax collections dated November 18th, 2021 and December 9th, 2021. Item 3, for informational purposes only, monthly tax collectors report dated October 21st. I'm sorry, October 2021 and November 2021. Item 6, rescind and new action for copier management services. Rescind common counts, can rescind common action of May 25th, 2021. It's authorized the execution of a contract with TGI Office Automation to execute a 4-year extension of the master agreement. And 6B, authorized the mayor to exclude Amendment 1 to the master lease agreement for office copiers with TGI Office Automation to execute a 4-year extension to this master agreement for a total not to exceed $423,166.56. That is the consent calendar. So I will now call for a vote. Just go through Ms. Ayers. I'm just gonna go in district.
I so move.
Okay. Let's see, Ms. Young,
Yes.
Ms. Revelous. Okay, Mr. Kides,
Yes.
Ms. McMurray,
Yes.
Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
Ms. Alterman,
Yes.
Ms. Shanahan,
Yes.
okay, Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
let's see, Mr. Burnett,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Zilski Eichner,
Yes.
and who am I missing? And me, I vote for it. Am I missing anybody?
Yeah, Josh Goldstein, aye.
Oh, Josh, sorry, didn't see you there. Okay, so it is unanimous, and back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. You did a remarkable job on reading that long consent calendar. We appreciate that.
That's my holiday present to the council.
Thank you. So 7B 2, I believe, is off, and that is the Economic and Community Development Committee. Mr. Kides.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item B2, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents regarding the 3-year partnership with Kiva and the National League of Cities for a small business and entrepreneurship loan program, including a contract staff position in amount not to exceed $245,000. Account American Rescue Plan Act funds. I would like to move that and briefly speak to it, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
You have the floor, Mr. Kides.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is one of the first expenditures of ARPA money, or better known to the public as COVID relief funding. And I think it's a great initiative. I think it just a brief description is it is a loan, a program for small businesses here in Norwalk. And I actually want to call on Ms. Sabrina Church to give those listening at home and everyone else on this call a brief description, if I may.
Sure. Thank you, John. And thank you all for being here tonight. So we, as a team on the Economic Development, Community and Development team, have been working on exploring different types of programs to support businesses for the past couple of years now. We approached the National League of Cities, which works through DC, and they have a list of programs that support different types of entrepreneurs and businesses, especially those that are women-owned and minority-owned. The one that fit best for us was the Kiva program. The Kiva program is a crowdsource funded loan program. So how it works is somebody can put in $25 and then they become a lender. So essentially that $25 can then be put towards any campaign that they want to support. The campaigns usually take about 15 days to be fully funded on the platform. Any business can get up to $15,000 in loan funds. The purpose of the program is really to support businesses and entrepreneurs that traditionally would not be able to get a traditionally bank funded loan. in addition to this, it's really helpful for these businesses to be able to underwrite and actually be able to repay that loan, because it actually helps them to build their business credit, which they may not have before, or it may not be great. Once they complete the process and the loan's repaid, they'll have some sort of credit and some sort of credibility to get traditional funding from a traditional lender should they need it. These are things that could range from, a limo service, buying an additional vehicle, a catering business, buying a more traditional equipment, things of that nature that a bank would normally scoff at or not want to support. So that's the premise of the program. We've spoken to many other municipalities that have already implemented the program and actually used it for COVID support because they didn't have any funds to give to any of their businesses in the beginning of COVID. So they actually did these 0 interest loans, and that functioned kind of as a support program for the businesses that they have in their community so that they wouldn't have to close. So everyone who I've spoken to has great reviews of the program, great response rate. The loans, like I said, get funded by crowdsource, but in 15 days. So it's a very short turnaround to somebody to get their actual funding. And then the loans close within 5 to 7 business days after that. So you're talking about less than a month turnaround for a business to actually get money that they're requesting. And it could be anywhere from $1,500 to $15,000. So it really runs the gamut for what a business would need. And it can be, small and larger asks, but it's not, $50,000 by any means, but any little bit helps, especially when you're just starting out and you cannot get traditional funding. So that's kind of how the program works. The staff person that we would bring on board would be a contracted position that would then solely focus on the Kiva program. So their role would be to do outreach to businesses to let them know that it's available, which we will also assist with as a team. But additionally, they will help the business owner get their information up on the Kiva platform and help to close their loan. So they're really with them from start to finish. Ideally, that position will also help the business owner after the fact to let them know of any other additional financial programs that we might have available or that traditional banks might have available that they can then execute after the fact of their loan being repaid. So that's a general overview of everything. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And if anybody's interested to speak offline about it, I'm happy to do that as well. So thank you, John. And we're really excited. And thank you all for your support up to this point this far.
Thank you, Ms. Church. Any questions, or Mr. Kites, do you have any further comments?
Yeah, I just want to say I want to thank Sabrina and her team. I mean, we've been tasked to find ways to spend the ARPA funding, and they're not taking it lightly. They're finding the best initiatives, the best ways to improve our community and give and make it worthwhile. And they're doing a great job at it. So thank you, Sabrina, and to Jessica for listening.
Thank you. Ms. Young?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to thank Ms. Church for all of her work along with the Economic and Community Development Department. So if you could just share a little bit, what's the time frame on when we want to get started with this?
So hopefully after the approval tonight, the mayor will be able to sign and execute the letter of commitment with NLC. That will give us a $15,000 stipend to then go out to hire that person. Their first training is the second week of February. So if we were to advertise as soon as possible, we would be able to get somebody on board in time for that training, but they have an additional training that happens in March. So hopefully we can do it by the February date and then get the ball moving. But once that person is trained, it really just hits the ground running because it's an already existing platform and program. So they know how it works, what to do. And then we can then push out on all of our, media, press releases, all that fun stuff to really get the word out that it's available. And then after that, like I said, it only takes a couple days to get somebody up on the site, and then it'll take 15 days maximum for them to get funded. And then they'll have 5 to 7 business days on closing the loan. So they can turn around potentially in a month, but that person is the first step in the process because they need to be trained on the back end of Kiva, and they'll have to, get a lot of personal information. So that's why they like to share the cost of that employee with us. so that they're a little bit more exclusive than somebody who would be just a regular city employee.
And can I just ask one more question? And so I think this is a really great initiative. And in my mind, Sabrina, I see tons of calls and emails coming into you with this announcement because it's a really unique opportunity. But I know that one of the questions that I had asked in our committee meeting was what types of businesses get funding. And I know that my question really centered around the not-for-profits. And so if you could just share that a little bit, and I will make that my last question.
Yeah, so there's no barrier to entry for any business type, whether that be nonprofit or for-profit. A lot of times they are smaller entrepreneurs or smaller for-profit businesses that have seen some type of loss or have a gap in their funding to get up and running. But it runs the gamut. If you were to go to kiva.com and really look into it, there's, a woman who's in Mexico City that sells hats on the side of the street. Like it's absolutely expanded about how many people who are actually on this platform. So there's no barrier to entry. All businesses are eligible. And the question that I had mentioned in the committee meeting, but also I'll say here for the record, is that I was most concerned about the businesses not being able to get funded through their crowdsource way that the platform works. And I have not heard of a business that has not been fully funded through that, because they don't only have the opportunity to have friends and family donate to that specific loan for that person, but they have over 1.5 million individuals that are specifically on that site where all they really do is donate to different folks. And it's not really a donation because it ends up being, paid back to them at some point, but a lot of people keep their money kind of in the fund. So it's really exciting. And like I said, no barriers to entry. We have staff, including myself, that will be able to help businesses get up and running on the site. So it'll be really exciting initiative.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of this program? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Church. Next item is item 7D, 7A, I believe. Ms. Smith, Public Works.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move 7A and 7B together, and if I may speak to it briefly.
Please.
7A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Kalana Concrete and Asphalt Paving LLC for project DRG 2021-1, Dreamy Hollow, Betts Brook area drainage, sanitary sewer and water main improvements for amount not to exceed $864,500 base bid, $682,815 alternate one, and $5,598,675 alternate two, accounts noted. And 7B, authorize the Chief of Operations and Public Works to execute orders on contract with Kalana Concrete and Asphalt Paving LLC for project DRG 2021-1, Dreamy Hollow, Betts Brook area drainage, sanitary sewer and water main improvements for amount not to exceed $715,000, accounts noted. This is a project that has been a long time coming, one of the biggest projects that the city has taken on in decades. There has been a long history of flooding in the Dreamy Hollow area. An extensive study has been done, and what we're doing here tonight is awarding the contract. And I'd like to, if I may, we have Anthony Carr here, our Chief of Public Works, and Vanessa Valadares to answer any questions. I'd just like Anthony to, give a brief history and talk about this contract.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and Mayor and Common Council. Good evening. For the record, Anthony Carr, Chief of Operations and Public Works. So first, I'd like to say that this project has been a long time coming. As Councilman Smith has said, this project originated based on historical accounts from staff who've been here for quite a long tenure. The flooding problems in this area, which is the Saddle Road area, Assisi, Surrey, Daphne Drive, Honeysuckle, Friendly Road, that area have been experiencing flooding problems since the 80s. It's progressively gotten worse. And I know that this project was on the shelf and discussed probably at least 3 directors ago. So prior to myself, there was Mr. Chimento. Before Mr. Chimento, there was Mr. Alvord. Before Mr. Alvord, there was Mr. DeGangi. And probably about three directors ago is when the public really started expressing their concerns. And I believe that subdivision was constructed somewhere in the 1950s and 60s. And again, the speculation as to why the flooding is occurring and why it isn't, but not to focus so much on the past and more so on the future. When I first started here in March of 2019, several months later, or several weeks initially, I got a few emails from a very vocal resident in that area, and then the emails followed with other residents. And then shortly after that, a few months later, I said, okay, look, let's take a look at the issues that have been plaguing that area historically, and let's see if there's something that we can do. Now, there have been small fixes along the way, but I did come here with flooding expertise, and I know that these are heavy lifts, but they're not necessarily impossible. So without knowing the full history, other than what I've received from the staff, and then eventually from the residents themselves, my staff and Woodard and Curran Engineering put our heads together and basically commissioned a flood study in, I believe it was September of 2019 for Dreamy Hollow, which is the Betts Brook watershed, which again is the Friendly Pond area. And that flood study was eventually finalized with a design alternative that the city felt was feasible and cost beneficial. That design alternative was then advanced to full design development drawings, which is right before construction. We gave it one more look, and then it went out to construction, I believe, on December. The bids were due on December 1st. So we received bids for construction. The total bid amount was $7.15 million. Of that $7.15 million, approximately $6 to $6.1 million of that is for drainage, and the remainder of the improvements, the other $1.1 million approximately is for sanitary sewer improvements. So in addition to the flooding issues, there's also sanitary sewer issues in that area because of the soil being substandard, meaning that there's bellies and sags in the sanitary sewer lines. Some of the sanitary sewer lines are sloping back the other way, meaning they don't flow downhill. The sewage builds up in the pipe to a certain point, then eventually overflows, so it actually flows backwards. During heavy rains, the sanitary sewer systems experience what's called I&I, inflow and infiltration. Infiltration basically is groundwater that gets into the sanitary sewer main. Inflow is through other sources like trench drains, roof drain leaders, manhole covers, etc. So all that water goes through the sanitary sewer. It takes away capacity from the sanitary sewer, which should just be addressing sanitary sewer flows and not combined flows, meaning stormwater being introduced. So there's 2 problems going on in that area. One is the flooding from inadequate drainage. The second, but also related, is the sanitary sewer issue. So this project will correct those issues. It will mitigate the flooding up to the 25-year storm event, which again is a storm event that has a 4% chance of occurring in a given year. And I know people had questions about why can you get multiple storms that occur, multiple 100-year storms in 1 year, because it's looked at as a 365-day cycle. So a 100-year storm has a 1% chance of occurring every year. But again, there's 365 days in a year, so 1% of the year is actually several days. So it's all probability statistics that we don't need to cover tonight. But the flood mitigation for this project will address up to the 25-year storm event. Again, a 4% chance annual flood. Approximately 60 homes will benefit from this public betterment, meaning that they will either be taken out of the flood area or have flooding reduced within certain ranges, whether it's a few inches or up to 1.5 feet, 2 feet. So 60 homes for approximately $6 million of drainage work, we felt was cost beneficial, especially since there's repetitive losses in that area. Again, this is not a FEMA map flood zone, so this is a localized area that was prone to flooding. But again, the consultant and my engineering team, along with WPCA and operations, so a very big shout out to Vanessa Valadares, Paul Sotnick, Drew Bernalmeyer, Christine, one of our new junior engineers, Chris Torrey, Ralph Kolb. Couldn't do it without you. This was a project that's been shelved and basically said that there was no way to improve that area. We did not believe that. I certainly didn't. But we were able to find the balance between what was cost feasible and what was cost prohibitive and what would be what we felt an adequate benefit to the public. So thank Anthony Catalano, Steve Loria, Joe Kirby, Dave White, and the rest of the Woodland Current team for finally bringing a project that was decades in the making here within probably a year and almost 2 years. And we had said that this would take time. We had notified the public. We had public forums. Everybody knew this was going to take time. And I feel that we did deliver the best product to the public and to the city that we could within the confines that we had with us.
Mr. Kites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to thank you, Mr. Carr. I want to thank you and your team. Also want to thank former chair of the DPW committee, George Sirenides, who also I know helped a lot with this. I also want to thank all the residents in the area for keeping the pressure on the city. As Mr. Carr had mentioned, this has been kicking around for decades upon decades. I saw clippings back from the 60s with pictures of the flooding in this area. And with the pressure keeping on, and even with all the changes and with DPW directors, leadership, we were able to finally get to this point. I know the residents in that area can maybe finally breathe a sigh of relief when you get that significant rain in that short period of time. As a councilman, I'm often asked to help constituents with issues, and the simple ones of potholes, abandoned cars, and so forth are the easy fixes. But when I first got into council several years back, I was confronted with this issue because it's in the district that I represent, and all these years later, and we're able to finally, I think, get it over the top and realize that it's a bigger issue and it will need significant funding and commitment. But I'm very happy to be at this point, and I'm sure, like I said, the residents in the area are just as happy, if not more. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Kites. Any further comment? Ms. Nijelski-Eichner.
Thank you. I want to echo the thanks to Mr. Carr and to the rest of the folks who've led this project, Chairwoman Smith, for her leadership on this. And I just wanted to mention to the public as well, there was a fantastic presentation organized by Councilmember Shanahan and Mr. Carr last week or the week before that really laid out the really extensive and thoughtful work that DPW is doing to prepare us to address flooding around the city. They have a prioritized list of projects. And I think it's important that we talk about it now, talk about it early and often. This is not going to be inexpensive, but it is going to be tremendously valuable for our community. It builds on, I think, as Mr. Carr laid out, decades of uncertainty about how to proceed and things just sort of continuing. And I'm tremendously excited about the work DPW is doing to really get on top of flooding throughout our communities, and really making sure that we are keeping people dry, particularly as we continue to face more challenges from extreme weather. So looking forward to talking about many more projects in the years to come. So thank you.
Thank you. Further comments, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Carr, for all your hard work. Your team is doing a remarkable job.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Common Council. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next item, Ms. Smith, is item 8, I believe. Yeah, you're muted.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, don't go anywhere yet, Anthony. We still need you. I hope he's still here. I see that.
Vanessa's here.
I am here. I'm here.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So item 8 Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a Fourth Amendment to the Woodward and Kern Agreement dated August 12th, 2019, to provide construction administration services associated with Dreamy Hollow Bettsbrook area drainage, sanitary sewer, and water main improvements construction project in accordance with Scope of Services Task Order 1F dated December 1, 2021, for a sum not to exceed $291,400, accounts noted. This is the technical advisor for this project. So Vanessa, do you want to go ahead and explain that part of it?
Sure. So Woodard and Curran is the design consultant for the project that we just explained. What we are approving now is really the construction administration that they need to provide during construction for the project. So they're responsible to review submittals, shop drawings, come to field meetings, participate on monthly meetings, review the requisitions. If there are any issues with the design or something that happens during construction, they will address. It is very common in the industry. You guys already approved some contracts with them in the past, but it finished the design up to the point that we bid the project. After the project is awarded, we need construction administration service, and this is what that will cover.
Ms. Smith, any further comments or any questions from anybody?
Not from me, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Valadares. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 7D9, or that was 9. No, that was 8. At 7D9.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to United Concrete Products, Inc. for the precast box culvert for the Rowayton Avenue Keelers Brook Bridge as a sole source request for the amount of $244,130 proposal plus $24,413, 10% contingency, account noted. This is the concrete work and the culvert work for the Rowayton Avenue, the Keelers Brook Bridge that was damaged during the storms. And so again, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Carr. I see you're back.
Yes.
Yes. So many residents have been really dealing with this for quite a long time. And so if you could just explain where we're at with this project, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. So the item before everyone tonight is requesting a sole source waiver for allowing the Department of Public Works to contract directly with United Concrete, which is the company that will fabricate and manufacture the new culvert or the new bridge. And basically what this is it's a rectangular concrete box structure, X amount of feet wide by X, Y feet high. I think it's 11 foot wide by 7 foot high approximately. And that will be replacing the existing Rowayton Avenue Bridge that has partially failed. So the reason for our request is several important reasons. First is obviously to expedite construction and replacement of the bridge to preserve public safety and welfare, meaning that we do not want the road or the bridge to further collapse and into Keelers Brook and potentially obstruct the brook's flow and cause and or exacerbate existing flooding conditions in that area that we know already exist. Obviously, we don't want anybody or any vehicles to somehow get on top of the structure and deteriorate it further. We have deemed it unsafe since July, and as everyone knows, the road has been closed, I believe, since July 22nd or 23rd. And at this point now, our design drawings are approximately 80% complete, but allowing us to go solely to the manufacturer will reduce the project cost by about 20%, meaning that instead of paying the contractor 20% overhead and profit for the $250,000 culvert, which 20% would be $50,000, the city can contract directly with the vendor to reduce the project cost. But more importantly, it also expedites the time of the project. So instead of having to go out to public bid, getting advertising for the project, getting bids back, getting a contract on board, having the contractor place the order, it will definitely save at least 45 to 60 days for the project duration if we go into contract and issue a purchase order to the manufacturer to begin the culvert design sooner rather than later. So the engineer of record, Freeman Companies LLC, they are basically our bridge consulting engineer at this point. Like I said, their design plans are 80% complete. So what they would do is they would submit their plans to the manufacturer. The manufacturer would generate what's called shop drawings, which is basically what the product is going to look like once it's cast, once it's fabricated. They generate those drawings. They send them back to us and the engineer of record. We say, okay, good, go ahead, put it into production. They do so, and then several weeks later, the culvert's delivered, which I believe it'll take approximately 2.5 months. But again, if we wait until we have a contractor on board and went through the contractor, we're incurring additional time and costs. So we understand that time is of the essence for this project. We understand the residents of the area have been impacted enough, and in our opinion, for too long. But with winter coming now, this gives us the perfect time to prep the site, get the contractor on board, have the culvert go into production, and then we intend to complete the project by optimistically March of 2022, but realistically April. And again, that's a hard month to pay because sometimes you can get a worse than anticipated February. You can get snow in March. So cautiously and conservatively, we say April, but we're hoping for March of 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Ms. Smith, Ms. Shanahan.
Anthony, thank you so much for that update. I was going to ask you when it was going to be completed, and April sounds good, so that we can let our neighbors know. Do you have can you just reassure everybody that whatever happens on this bridge rebuild, that there won't be any downstream impact? I think some residents are concerned about that.
Yes. So as part of the deal that we have with the regulatory agency permitting, so there's 4 different permits or agencies that we have dealt with or are dealing with now. The first is the local, our Conservation Commission, which we've gotten approval for. The other 2 agencies are the Connecticut DEEP, which is the state agency that's involved with this project under a water quality certification. It's just a type of permit for doing work in the river or in the brook, excuse me. And then also Army Corps permitting, which is the federal level. We don't anticipate the Army Corps permitting to be, it appears that'll be straightforward. We've had pre-application meeting with Connecticut DEEP, and we've had further correspondence with them. And basically what we were able to arrive at and agree on was that they would not object if we ordered the culvert first, a little bit of our own risk, but they would not object if we ordered the culvert first before we have the permit in hand, because we do not have a permit in hand. So the consultant is working and either has or will be submitting the permitting package to the state, Connecticut DEEP, who really is our focal point to please and to obtain the permit. So the getting back to the size of the culvert, the way that it's designed, it mimics the opening of the new culvert, mimics and is extremely similar. You could almost call it in kind, which is why that's just called an in kind replacement. Hydraulically, it has the same opening. So if it has an area of, let's say, 100 square feet under existing conditions with the existing bridge, the opening on the upstream end will also, and the downstream end will be the same size and match. It might be a different shape, but the area would still be the same. And it's like almost having a rectangle being the same size as a half circle. They may look different, but you can get the same square area, which will allow whatever is flowing now through the existing culvert will mimic and match what's going to flow through the new culvert. So what that does is any flooding that's occurring upstream will continue to happen, but it will not be exacerbated if you had, let's say, a smaller opening. Conversely, if you had a larger opening, you would benefit with the new culvert. The upstream properties would benefit, but now the downstream properties would suffer because water would be getting there faster than it is today. So in an effort to expedite permitting and also a bit of responsible engineering, there is a problem now. We understand that that brook does flood, especially for higher storm events. It basically will fill up and it'll go over the road, and it's not, and then it'll go spread out to whatever properties it does downstream or upstream, and the impacts are real. And we've spoken to the residents about this, but the issue that we run into is if we make it bigger, it really will have adverse impacts downstream. So the decision was to replace the culvert in kind with the same geometry, we'll say the same opening up on the upstream side, which is where the water flows into, and on the downstream side, which is where the water outlets or exits. So that is what's meant by an in-kind replacement. And Connecticut Deep was very happy with that. And they understand our limitations. Of course, they would like to see it bigger for a larger storm event, but we showed them the maps. Our engineering firm who's working with us, Freeman Companies, submitted the calculations and the FEMA maps, basically saying you can make this culvert, double the size, but the area is still going to flood the same way. And in fact, you would actually worsen the flooding downstream. So that's in a nutshell and a high level summary of the culvert and why we're selecting an equivalent opening size. We're going with precast concrete because that has a useful life of anywhere to 75 to 100 years. Again, the stone masonry culvert that failed was built originally in the early 1900s. I believe in 1966 and 1962, there was half of the culvert was replaced with a circular metal pipe. So half of that bridge is a stone masonry arch, and the other half is a circular metal pipe. Again, they probably did that realizing that there's problems and there was a partial failure. So here we are again, almost 60 years later, replacing the entire thing. So definitely got the useful life out of the stone masonry and the round pipe, but now it's time to upgrade to a more aesthetically pleasing bridge, which again, this project will include a nice concrete bridge, which will have a stone appearance on the outside. That'll be done at the factory, at the fabricator. We're going to add the Merritt Parkway guide rail on each side, which currently there's a W-beam metal guide rail, I believe, on one side. We're going to add a sidewalk on one side, curbing. We're going to pave that area over the bridge deck, which is the roadway. And then we're going to continue up Woodchuck Lane. That was actually a good point raised by Vanessa. So we're going to extend our project outside the limits of that bridge, but we're going to make sure we pave the entire area as well once the bridge is complete. So that we are going to turn over again a much better product than what we had earlier. So
Thank you so much, Anthony. That was
You're
really a
welcome.
thorough answer.
Mr. Livingston.
Thank you. Just to be brief, Mr. Carr, I really want to thank you for this. I know how complicated this is, as you just evidenced with your discussion, in terms of the permits, in terms of the water flow, and I and the neighbors really appreciate all the efforts you've gone to speed this process up. As you just indicated, you're saving this 45 to 60 days on just the fabrication side. And I know you've saved out time in other areas as well, and it's really appreciated. And I thank you guys for all your hard work.
You're welcome.
Any further comments or discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And Ms. Smith, are you going to move 10A and B together?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I am. Item 10A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement sole source with FGB Construction Company for project BR 2021-1 Rowayton Avenue over Keeler's Brook Bridge for the amount not to exceed $679,407. Accounts noted. And item 10B, authorize the Chief of Operations and Public Works to execute orders on contract with FGB Construction Company for project BR 2021-1 Rowayton Avenue over Keeler's Brook Bridge for the amount not to exceed $135,882. Accounts noted. And if I may say a few words here, Mr. Mayor, I would like to, this is the design build aspect of the project. And again, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Carr to describe that, but I would just like to take a moment to commend the DPW staff for the professionalism of the entire staff and how much attention you have paid to not just the time and getting projects done, but finding efficiencies, finding ways to save money, and the care with which you use our taxpayer dollars. I'm very impressed by that, and I just wanted to make sure to note that. So Anthony, if you could just go over this part of the project, that would be
Okay,
great.
Madam Chairwoman, I didn't drop off this time, so I'm still here. So this portion of the project is, so the previous item was the material procurement for this project. This item is the actual contractor who will be doing the construction for the project. So Vanessa and her team, and again, a very big shout out to Vanessa and Paul Sotnick for really working with the engineer and several contractors. So I'll just back up for a moment. So this sole source request is for the Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement upon the mayor's execution with a contractor without going through the public bidding requirements. And under, again, due to the emergency work and the expedited timeline and the nature and the sensitivity to the public safety and welfare, we had spoke and coordinated with the law department and the purchasing department, who, again, they were fantastic to work with. Sharon Connors and Darren Callahan, thank you very much for everything that you do for us. But we were trying to come up with a solution that would expedite the project, but obviously still would fall within the city's procurement guidelines. So what we ended up with was a scenario where we did solicit 2 other quotes in addition from FGB, which were about double the cost. I believe this is a little bit under $700,000. The other 2 quotes were almost 100% extra, so they were almost double in cost. And those costs are noted on your sole source form in the backup. Again, the 2 other contractors that were approached, I believe, was PJF and Chambro Middlesex. Again, all 3 are very reputable bridge/culvert heavy highway contractors. So FGB Construction, I know my staff has worked with them in the past before. Again, they specialize in heavy highway work, bridge rehabilitation, culverts. But what this sole source allows us to do is not have to put a what we call a bid package out, which is a set of 100% complete drawings, and then you have the big spec book that associates with that. So when they say drawings and specs, those are the bid documents that the contractor takes and bids on, and that's what you call a traditional design. So the engineer designs it, bid, and then build it. That's design, bid, build. What we're doing here kind of mimics a different project delivery method known as design build, where you're designing the project, but you're also getting input from the contractor upfront. So the contractor is able to see the drawing before they're actually bid out, and you're intentionally working with one contractor or 2, but you're working with typically the contractor that's gonna do the project, and they're giving you feedback on means and methods. What's more efficient? Should you put the crane here? How many pumps do you really need? The engineer is saying 2, but they're saying they've done number 1. And there's a lot of value in that, because what it does is it minimizes risk, so that when the contractor does come out to the site after they bid the project, you don't say one of these, oh, this is no good, this is a big job. You know, you've heard that before too, where the contractors look at things, this is gonna be a big job. And then meanwhile, you talk to a different contractor, no, it's no problem, we can do it. So it all depends on the contractor, but basically everything's up front. They have subsoil information, they have our design drawings, they see what the engineer is looking to do. So it allows collaboration between the owner, which is the city of Norwalk, the contractor, and the engineer, which is our consulting engineer. So that's the team. In a traditional design bid build scenario, the engineer would put out the drawings with our collaboration and coordination. We put it out to bid, and again, the only feedback you'd get would be after the project's bid, and then that would typically be questions from the contractor that would likely result in change orders, and which could also result in time delays and additional costs to the project. So allowing the contractor to see it up front gives us their input. They understand our objectives. There's a constant flow of communication. So if things need to change, they get changed there on the spot. And the drawings don't need to be complete. With a design bid build, they have to be 100% complete. And then they get picked apart and reviewed afterwards. The design build, which this is not an exact design build, but it mirrors, this delivery is more like a design build. So it's not exactly a design build. But in a true design build, you have one company that does everything. They're the engineer, they're the architect, they're the estimator, they're the construction manager, and they're the contractor as well. So they're basically all in one, and you're dealing with just one party. So it would be the city dealing with that firm, and then you have one team, and you could basically build the project, start building the project, even if you're only 30% done, 60% done, 80% done. At this point, we're 80% finished. So we didn't need a full design set. Again, we're not looking to skirt the bidding requirements. However, if we did put the project out to bid, we would need to have 100% design, which would take several more weeks, probably 4 weeks to advertise the project, another few weeks to several weeks to review the bids, get it through Public Works Committee, then Common Council, and then for the law department to get okay to draw up the contract. So in sum, had we gone with the traditional design bid build and public bidding process, it would likely that this project would not be completed until fall of 2022. So in addition to the culvert saving 45 to 60 days, the delivery process for this project which is more of a design build than a design bid build, does reduce project time by approximately 6 months as well. And again, this is only due to the nature of the emergency work and the fact that the bridge deck and the cracks have become larger, they have become longer, and we want to avoid a scenario where if we do get heavy wet snow, and you have that dead load, as is referred to on the deck, we don't want a scenario where it's freezing outside and then part of that bridge collapses into the brook, and now you're dealing with flooding, and there's multiple scenarios that can happen at the same time. So we're looking to avoid that, and more importantly, protect property and life. So with that, that's the request before the mayor and before the members of the common council, is to basically allow Public Works to enter into this contract, authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement with just one contractor. But again, we did get 2 other quotes, and this by far was the lowest quote. So Vanessa's team did a fantastic job. I know they were hustling on this, and there was a lot of back and forth with Vanessa, Paul, Sotnick, Freeman Companies, LLC, Connecticut Deep, Army Corps. First, we were working with Chamber of Middlesex, and then eventually FGB. So it looks nice on paper, but I could tell you, and I believe Mayor, and I know that Common Council has recognized the efforts of this department. It looks nice in the end, but there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes. And we know that this is an important project, regardless of where it is. But this was unfortunately a catastrophic event that happened as a result of Elsa. And then that Ida didn't help it any further either. Thank God nothing fell into the brook at that point, but we did evaluate it before and after Ida too. So we are constantly monitoring this project to ensure it's not getting any worse at an exponential rate.
Thank you, Mr. Carr.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, Mayor.
Good night.
Good night, Common Council.
Good night.
Next item is 7F4, I believe, Mr. Burnett.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 7F4, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute the agreement between the city of Norwalk and the Norwalk Board of Education and the UPSEU custodians, maintenance, and security staff to modify the collective bargaining agreement and the city of Norwalk pension plan with respect to the 2021 retirement incentive offering. I'd like to move this item. We have on the call with us Brenda Wilcox Williams, who is the Chief of Staff and Communications for the Board of Education, along with Lisette Colon, who's the Director of Human Resources, and they can provide additional information and address any questions. Essentially, this item is an early retirement incentive program. There was approximately 35 employees that were eligible to take this particular project offering, I should say. 6 accepted the incentive plan. The net of that will bring about a $100,000 savings per year to the district. And it's a positive opportunity in terms of savings, as well as provides a incentive for the employees. So I'll turn it over to Brenda and Lisette if they have any additional information to add.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Burnett. That was a very accurate summary. Thank you for that. This is a continuation of the work that we've been doing to transition some of our buildings over to contracted custodians. And this is something that continues really a 4 or 5 year plan that works with employees who are transitioning out, whether through retirements or leaving for other opportunities. So I'll turn it over to Lisette for any additional information and to answer any questions that you have on this.
Good evening, everyone. Basically, we're making ourselves available to see if there are any questions, but for now, can you hear me with the mask on? Okay. So these are employees of the age of 55 with at least 15 years of service with the district, and they will be eligible to retire effective December 31st, the end of this month. The offer provided an additional 3 years of service for pension purposes. And the offer provided the eligible employees with the ability to elect retiree medical at no cost for the retirees. 50% cost share for dependents, spouse, or eligible children. Employees are also able to continue dental and vision coverage for themselves and eligible dependents. As a result, I mean, we were expecting about 15 employees to take advantage at a minimum of this offering, and only 6 elected to take the early retirement offer. 1 includes a maintenance employee and 1 security guard. So in total, really 4 custodians took advantage of the early retirement package. That's basically it. As City Council member Burnett mentioned, the savings would be about $100,000 to the district at this point.
And I see we have Mr. Hamilton just joined us as well after the conclusion of the board meeting. So, Tom, if you have anything to add to that.
No, just if there's any questions, that's all.
Ms. Young, I believe you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you said there was a total of how many the early retirement was offered to?
It was offered to a total of 36 to 38 employees, and only 6 employees in total took advantage.
Okay, and you mentioned something about eventually going into contractual agreements. What did you mention about that? Can you just share that again? You mentioned something about going into some sort of, and Mr. Burnett, you might have mentioned it. What's going to happen?
Yeah, I think the question is around the individuals that are accepting the early retirement package in terms of replacing those services.
Right.
The Board of Ed will be utilizing a contracting service.
Right.
To in the particular school to replace the existing employees.
Yeah, if I could add, this is Tom Hamilton, and good to be with you this evening. The board a number of years ago began an initiative to contract out custodial services, which is provided for in our labor contract, so long as it results in financial savings to the school district and does not result in any layoffs of any employees. And so at this point, in fact, the majority of schools in the district are in fact serviced with outside contracted custodians. Most of our elementary schools and 3 of our 4 middle schools presently have contracted services. So with 4 additional employees, 4 additional custodians, and 2 other employees, as Lisette said, taking this early retirement deal, which is the same deal that the city offered to its employees last year. And in fact, it's the same pension fund that these employees are in, that it will allow us to contract out 1 additional school and will result in additional savings. Again, had been estimated at about $100,000 a year. I do want to make it clear, though, that no employees will lose their jobs over this at all.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Hamilton. Ms. Young, any other questions, or?
No.
Mr. Kites?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm one that asked to take this off consent. I personally can't support the incentivizing the loss of living wage jobs and replacing them with privatized, lower paid employees, especially when most of the jobs are held by Norwalk residents. So therefore, I will be voting no on this item tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kites. Any further comments or discussion or questions? Ms. Revolus? Yep, we can't hear you. We're not able to hear you. Okay. Ms. Nijelski Eichner.
I just want to follow up on Councilmember Keity's point. Although I will be supporting this, given that these individual employees have already been offered this package and have to make their own personal decisions on that basis. As a general rule, I share Councilmember Keity's concern about the loss of living wage jobs in this community, and I certainly will be anticipate asking questions about any future attempts to contract out services that, again, provide living wage jobs for our community. And I have asked, I will mention that I did ask at the Finance Committee meeting for information regarding whether the contractors are providing living wages to the people that the contract services service provider employs. I have not received that information, and I would appreciate follow-up to give us some sense of what kind of wages the contractors are paying. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Revoluce, I don't know if you're able to. Okay. Any further comments or questions? Ms. Smith?
I'd just like to follow up with Mr. Hamilton. You said that the collective bargaining agreement allows for hiring outside, contracting outside. Can you clarify that message you gave us?
Yes, that's correct. The agreement does allow the district to contract out so long as the contracting out will result in cost savings to the district, and it will not result in any layoffs of any bargaining group members, which in this case, both of those conditions are being met.
Thank you.
Mr. Livingston?
Yeah, just a question for Tom. So if you have 6 people accepting this, are they all at the same school, or do you move them? I mean, it just sounds like, do you have some people who are contract and some who are regular employees working in the same site, or what do you do?
No, we would move our district employees so they're all working in a building that's covered by in-house custodians, and the source custodians would be in a separate building.
Okay. I think Ms. Johnson and then Ms. Young.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up, so the union is in support of this amendment to the collective bargaining agreement, Mr. Hamilton?
Yes, so the union approved the early retirement offer. That was part of the settlement of the contract earlier this year. So the union has approved it. Yes.
Ms. Young.
Do we have any, as a follow-up, do we have any?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mayor.
No, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead. Ms. Johnson, go ahead. Ask your question.
Thank you, Councilmember Young. Appreciate it. Just as a follow-up, do we have any experience with the specific companies that you're using to contract this work out, and what any good or bad or otherwise reports on the level and quality of work life they have?
Yes, we have used this company now for 5 years, and they've provided excellent service to the district. Actually, over the last couple of years, I believe at least 1 or maybe 2 of their custodians were nominated by their other staff in the building for Employee of the Year for non-certified employee within their building. So there's been I think a favorable reaction within the school community to these custodians, and they have custodians working during the day, earning full-time wages with health benefits, and they do use people who come in at night to work for 4-hour shifts. But even those folks are, as you may be aware, the city has a living wage ordinance, and so the contract does require that they comply with the living wage ordinance. I don't know what the exact wage rates are off the top of my head, but I do know that that is part of the contract.
And if I could just add to that too, I believe that in the Finance Committee meeting the other night, Mr. Dakowitz confirmed that this is Guardian, the same company that the city uses as well, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
Ms. Young.
Mr. Hamilton, how many other schools are left that still have unionized workers? You mentioned,
Currently, it's the two high schools, Norwalk High School, Brian McMahon, and one middle school, I believe it's Nathan Hale, and two elementary schools, Narragansett, and I'm not sure of the other, have in-house custodians.
and is the goal to then have them all be contractual, contracted services?
Well, I mean, the goal is first and foremost to get our buildings clean and to keep them clean, to, you know, serve the schools and the public and our students and staff and users of those buildings. That's the first and foremost goal. And the second goal is to do that as efficiently, as cost efficiently as we can, so that we can devote as many resources as possible into the classroom. And so there certainly has been in the past a effort to try to generate some savings here, but obviously, you know, different boards may come to different conclusions. But as of right now, that's been the board's policy.
Thank you.
Mr. Hamilton, I just, maybe you could expand on two things. The one, I imagine Guardian is not a union shop, is that correct?
No, that's actually not correct. And we're using a Finico. I'm not sure that Guardian, I believe, may have some security services with the city and with the school system, but I think the custodial service is actually a different company. But and actually, that's a very good point, Mr. Mayor. I should have made it myself, and that is that the employees who are employed by our outsourced vendor are in fact unionized employees represented by, I think it's 30BJ, if I remember. It's a major East Coast union that represents employees in this line of work, this field, really throughout the New York City area, as I understand it. And so they are in fact unionized.
And the other question I'd like to ask, do you know how many of the employees of that company are local that live in Norwalk, or are they actively trying to hire local people?
I don't have an actual count on how many may live in Norwalk, but certainly they are, you know, they live in the area, certainly. These are not people that are brought in from Texas or something to clean our buildings. These are people who live in this area, and I'm quite certain a number of them probably do live in Norwalk, but I just don't happen to know the number off the top of my head.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Mr. Goldstein.
Yeah, and also just to give us sort of a, perhaps, for lack of a better phrase, a preview of what may come. Obviously, you said that there was an offer made to city employees last year. There's this kind of an offer this year. Are there any future sort of pending, you know, contract amendments in the process or being currently negotiated? Is there more of this to come, I guess, is my question.
Well, certainly not on the city side at this time.
And I don't believe we have any on the Board of Ed side. We didn't think it made financial sense generally for most of our bargaining groups because of the fact that, you know, as with the pandemic, we were, and with the staff turnover, we've been trying to hire people. And so we weren't looking to encourage people to leave for most of our groups.
Ms. Revolus?
Because of the computer issue, I'm on twice. Have our current janitors been even offered employment with this other outsourcing company so that they are local?
I don't know the answer to that. You know, they may have been. That certainly is a possibility.
Is there a way to look into that or to see if they have first preference, especially within our schools, especially for janitors who've been in our schools for a long time, who have, I know for the students I work with, the janitors are like their best friends in those schools. So just wondering if, for the ones we have already, if they at least get first choice or at least the option to be employed by the third party so that they can continue their employment there or help us with whatever we're doing to make it efficient for them, but less expensive.
Yeah, we can certainly talk to our contractor about that. I mean, I assume that some of these folks may want to in fact retire. There certainly was no pressure placed on anyone to accept the retirement offer. There was so no one was forced into this situation, but it is a good point that if somebody does want to continue to work, they would be working for a different employer, so they could collect a pension from Norwalk and actually still work in the same building potentially.
Right, because a lot of people, just because of the it's not always the best to take retirement early. So I think that might be a way of helping that out.
I can certainly reach out to our contractor and suggest that to him. I know that they're always looking for for good people like everyone. Finding staff these days can sometimes be hard.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thanks.
Ms. Ayers?
I just want to support the request of my colleague. Is there any time limit that we can get the documentation to let us know when or how this is going to impact our current city employees, or what the downwind of this is? And then can you give any information on when the council could expect to receive that information?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question exactly. What information are you looking for exactly?
It is my understanding that in the finance committee that additional information was requested around the retirement and custodians and other workers with the living wages. And I'm asking you, when can the council expect to get an answer to that? Can we get a firm date of when we can receive that information that these people are receiving a living wage? You also identified and highlighted that the city has an ordinance about the living wage. So we are asking that documentation is then given to us.
Sure, we can gather that quickly. I would say this week.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? So if I could see correctly, it's 13 in favor, 1 Mr. Kites opposed, and the motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Burnett, I believe it's 7F5 now.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 7F5, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a contract amendment between the City of Norwalk and Advanced Corporate Network, Inc., DBA Digital Back Office, ACN, to authorize the addition of a new location at 1 Park Street, Norwalk, Connecticut. The parties agreed to the addition of 110 GIGE managed optical Ethernet service at the following services location: Circuit 1, City Hall, 125 East Avenue, to 1 Park Street, with a monthly recurring fee of $1,536 paid for by the Board of Education for expense account as noted. I'd like to move this item. This particular item is extending the municipal area network from City Hall to 1 Park Street, which is the designated location that the Board of Ed is planning to start the family center. In addition to the activities at the Family Center, there will be employees from City Hall that will be relocated to 1 Park Street and providing them with the same equal internet service that they're receiving in City Hall, they would receive at 1 Park Street. And we have on the call, in addition to Mr. Hamilton and Ms. Wilcox-Williams, I see Ralph Ralazizi, who is the Chief of Information Technology for the Board of Education, has joined the call to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Mr. Burnett moved the item. Any questions for Mr. Valencizi or Ms. Wilcox-Williams or Mr. Hamilton? Mr. Keegan.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I don't have a question for any of anyone. I have a statement. We've been discussing this issue since August of this year, so for the past 4 or 5 months. And I'm going to vote no on this simply because I am not comfortable with the way it was presented to the Finance Committee. I'm not comfortable with how this Welcome Center came about first to us. And I just think it's not the best use of city tax dollars right now. We have an efficiency study that's before us. And I would like to see the efficiency study determine for us as a city that this Welcome Center is something that we need. So that being said, I am going to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keegan. Any further comments or discussion? Ms. Shanahan.
I'd like to adopt Mr. Keegan's comments as well.
Thank you. Ms. Revelous.
I would like to also adopt Mr. Keegan's, Councilman Keegan's comments. I too feel that, you know, I actually come from a family that's created centers like this. How this came about, what's being offered, the efficiency study that's still needed, and quite honestly, with so much that's already going on within the walls of the schools that our own students need to be addressed. I am not for how this has happened, how this has come up, and I really think the Board of Education should assess and reassess how they're allocating particular funds.
Thank you. Further comments? Ms. McMurray.
I would like to echo the sentiments that were brought forward by Councilman Keegan, Councilman Revelous, and Councilman Shanahan.
Thank you. Further comments or discussion? Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just would like to ask for those on the call who could answer while I'm not in the Finance Committee, there was some discussion about E-rate coming up with this proposal, and I was wondering if you could explain a little bit about that for my benefit and for others, please. Thank you.
Ms. Johnson, thank you for that question. I just wanted to clarify too that in addition to the existing staff moving from central office into the Family Center at the 1 Park Street location, it's also currently the home to our Norwalk Next Steps program for our 18 to 22-year-old special needs adults transitioning into the community. They've been located there since having to move out of the Norwalk Health Department during COVID, and there's about 35 students over there right now and about 10 staff members. So this extension of the municipal area network that is on the agenda tonight would also serve that program as well, in addition to the Family Center that is proposed. Now I'll turn it over to Mr. Valencizi for the E-rate discussion.
Yeah, and once we have students in there, that actually makes it E-rate eligible too. So what the E-rate reimbursement would be on this site would be the same as our regular Category 1 E-rate reimbursements, which is 80%. So we would actually get back out of the $1,500, whatever 80% is of that a month, once the E-rate is approved, which I believe would be July 1st. It all depends on the windows on when we can apply. I know when we started in August, I just don't know, like I said, if we'll hit the next window. But once it is approved, it'll actually go down to 80% of a reimbursement recurring. So it would end up becoming, $300-400 a month. So.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, any further questions or?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, just to follow up, have you then run the numbers as to the cost savings versus the standard, I assume, optimum connection that already exists, or?
No, but I mean, we can actually do that for you if that's needed.
That would be great. Yes.
I think one of the questions that becomes is by extending the man, the facilities themselves and the quality of what we are actually getting for our internet connection, it allows us to extend our phone systems in a way that makes sense, and it's so at a cost factor, it's going to. I mean, I know it's going to be close to the equivalent, basically, of what we'd be paying for the.
But you get more for the money, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and you actually get you actually get something that we can manage a little bit better because it becomes part of the man, and it actually just becomes an extension, just like another one of our buildings are currently one of our school buildings. So it functions much better, and it's easier to maintain. We control it then, not Optimum.
It still would be great to have the follow-up, but this gives me enough information for this purpose, so I appreciate that.
Ms. Smith.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I do want to say that while I support the idea of a welcome center, I have great concerns about the process through which this has come to us. I do think that there is value to it, but I'm concerned about transparency here. I'm concerned about the use of tax dollars. And it seems a little bit like putting the cart before the horse. I would like to know, I do have 2 questions. And one is, this connectivity, does it offer the district a level of security around your internet access? And then, kind of following up on Ms. Johnson's questions is, if this does not pass tonight, what will you do?
So to answer the first question, it is a lot easier. We can use the same security tools that we actually use currently because it becomes, in essence, another school. So it just makes it a lot easier to maintain our filters, everything else that we do with our students. If this does not pass, what we would need to do is actually use Optimum and come up with ways of having, almost in a sense, multiple hops to be able to achieve the same piece. But then we are kind of tied to like I said, Optimum service and not being able to kind of control this within our managed service that we already currently have. So is it a better solution for the students to have it as one network? Yes, definitely.
Ms. Revolus, I'm sorry, Ms. Smith, are you finished?
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Revolus?
Okay, so I'm sorry, because one of my biggest problems of this is that it should be connected to schools. So if this becomes another school, in essence, this should be in schools. Then secondly, the internet that we use and the processes of the internet that we use within the school systems with dealing with people, faculty in the schools is actually not that, what's the word I'm looking for? Stable from one moment to the next of what you can research, what you can Google. Something could be accessible today, not accessible tomorrow. And I've heard that within faculty, students, so on. So that would even further concern me with the use of what you're going to do that's already in the schools. And in particularly, like when there's programs, I know we've dealt like things like upper bound, so on, that could be so much more efficient to the students that we have and students that we would receive. So just the argument of it will become another school, for me, actually stresses my point. It should be located within our buildings and schools that we already have. The 18 to 21, I do understand. I've worked with those children myself through our other programs. I do understand that and how it's different. But it doesn't work for me what you just said about it become another school.
Yeah, I think it's become another school in terms of another building within the district. In terms of being located in the schools, these are district-wide services. So, Mr. Arfilos, I totally understand your advocacy for having student services in the buildings available to students. But in this case, this is actually district-wide services that we would be putting in place there, whether it's transportation, health services, the MLL Welcome Center located there. And it's putting those in one family-friendly place so that it's consistent with our goals to enhance customer service, which I know the city has as a goal in your POCD as well. It's just something that we're putting in one place to make it easier for families to access the services that they need on a district-wide basis. And I'll turn it over to Ralph for the security piece.
Yeah, I mean, Ms. Revelos, I think one of the things that we do have to understand is that we're working with children, and we do have legal obligations to be able to have filters in place to make sure that that happens. And staff does have a process to be able to get things unblocked when they need to be. So we do have to keep our systems secure at all times. And that's actually a legal obligation that we have, as well as if we're going to receive. Yeah. So
no, that's not the argument. I completely understand that. I get that completely. That's not my argument. It's just, it does become a buffer, not even a buffer, because that's its point, but it does become a restriction for the children on what they need to do. I've heard this even with the medical areas in the schools. For example, Brian McMahon, 1 minute they can access their systems, the next they can't because of those secured and blockage. So it's what I'm saying is not just mundane or just out of the box here. It happens, and it happens with your faculty, it happens with your students for a site that was working today and not working tomorrow. So it's no. And then again, being the fact that one-step shop, I get it, I do understand. It's just that even if I would catch you with Mr. Jennings, the principal, when new arrivals was in his school and my mother ran it, or the Haitian Community Center with any other school that we were in, to understand why these premises are connected in the schools. For example, one of the things we helped right within the school was immigration statuses, and it actually connected to students who helped with those same services, who then later on became lawyers. You know what I mean? There was a reason and a season why it was connected internally to the schools. Period. I'm sorry. It's just not feasible.
Any further comment or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Dixon, would you please take a roll call vote?
Mr. Burnett,
aye.
Mr. Goldstein,
Yes.
Miss Dominique Johnson. Sorry,
That's me. Thank you, Clerk. Yes.
Miss Najilski Eichner,
Yes.
Miss Smith,
Yes.
Miss Ayers,
Abstain.
okay, Mr. Uvelman's not here. Miss Revelos,
No.
Miss Young, Miss Young,
Yes.
Mr. Kites,
Yes.
Miss McMurr,
Abstain.
Miss Alterman,
Yes.
Mr. Keegan,
No.
Mr. Livingston,
Yes.
Miss Shanahan.
No.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses. I'm gonna make, hold on, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 yeses. One, 2, 3 no's. One, 2, and I have 2 abstentions.
Uh,
I think there
That
are
only
9
counts
yeses.
for 13.
13. Okay, so I'm missing one. So I have Mr. Burnett is a yes. Mr. Goldstein is a yes. Ms. Johnson is a yes. I have Mr. Najilski Eichner as a yes. Ms. Smith as a yes. Ms. Ayers abstained. I have Mr. Evelyn's not here. Ms. Revolus is a no. I have Ms. Young as a yes. I have Mr. Kites as yes. Ms. McMurr abstained. I have Miss Alterman as a yes. Mr. Keegan is a no. Mr. Livingston is no.
No, I was yes.
Oh, you're yes. Okay, that was my error. And Miss Shanahan is a no. Correct. Okay. All right. So let's do that again. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 yeses. And
And then you said 2 abstentions and 3 no's.
correct. So it passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Young?
Thank you, Mayor. I know the vote is over, and it was a hard vote for me. But I think what has been brought up, and I know it's been brought up a lot, we need to improve the process and the communication and how we work together with the Board of Education. I think we don't want to continue to come to this point where we have these kinds of questions and concerns. And we just need to be committed to doing a better job and communicating much sooner than we have been. And this was a hard decision for me, but I knew it was something that needed to happen. That's why I voted the way that I did. And I'm sure everybody voted their conscience on it. And that's what we're here to do. And this sort of dialogue should be taking place much sooner. I just felt the need to say that. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now remind me, Mr. Burnett, is 7F7 off consent?
Yes, it is, Mr. Mayor. So this is the
so-
final
Yep.
item under the Finance and Claims Committee. So item F7 reads as follows: resolution authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to support a community challenge grant application submission, including a local funding letter supporting a 50% match should the funds be awarded to the State of Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development in support of the South Norwalk Train Station project. So I'd like to move this item. We have on the call with us today, Brian Badoli, who is the Executive Director of the Redevelopment Agency. What is being asked of us tonight is to approve the submission of an application that has an overall value of $11.7 million. And the grant amount that we would potentially receive is $5.7 million, which would have the city providing $3.9 million in matching grants. Some of that would come through the capital project process and some would come through the redevelopment agency. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Brian to add any additional commentary and address any questions.
All right, thank you very much. And good evening, everyone. And if I may, I have an accompanying presentation just to go along with my remarks. If I could share the screen. Just give me 1 second here. All right, so again, good evening. I know that many of you are aware of this project. We've been working over the past year around the South Norwalk train station to develop a station area plan in support of various development opportunities, but also taking a look at community need and how we can sort of address that and best integrate development with overall infrastructure needs of the community. This grant that Mr. Burnett has introduced has been identified through the State Department of Economic and Community Development. They've been making funds available for transit-oriented development improvements, including infrastructure to support TOD and also affordable housing and sort of increasing the overall infrastructure around train stations throughout the state of Connecticut. So tonight I'll provide a little bit of an overview about the Community Challenge Grant, give you a brief update in terms of the study area and our overall vision that's been being developed for the South Norwalk train station area. Talk a little bit about the grant application and the match requirement that was referenced, and then we'll move on to the resolution that is before you tonight. So in terms of the Community Challenge Grant, DECD is undertaking a competitive process to fund multiple projects throughout the state of Connecticut. The goal is really to improve the livability, vibrancy, and appeal of communities throughout the state. And there's a strong focus on transit-oriented development, downtown and major hub redevelopment, looking at essential infrastructure, looking at housing and ways to improve mobility and public space around these train stations and throughout the state. The grants that they are making available are between $1 and $10 million. There is a 50% match requirement, as was referenced. We have been working along with the community to identify a scope of improvements that would be supportive of the work that we're doing around South Norwalk, which we'll hear about tonight in terms of some of those specific scope items and how we arrived at the budget and relative match for this program. In terms of the general timeline, they've followed sort of a 4-step process. In October, the grant was released. There was a deadline to notify DECD that the city was interested in applying, December 3rd, which we have filed. And the application is actually due on January 14th, which is why we're here before you at the December meeting to prep for the application, which will require provision of a letter of support for the grant on behalf of the city, along with the match support letter. And then they're looking to announce awards in the March-April timeframe. So in terms of the overall study that we've been working on and the sort of vision that we have for this grant is really related to the station area plan that we're in the process of finalizing. We've been working very closely with District B, local stakeholders, and also the overall community to develop initial recommendations. They're still preliminary, but what we're hoping is that, given the timeline of the grant and given the timeline of the study, that we'll be, finishing the study with some resources in hand to actually start implementing projects. There's a great public property redevelopment potential around the South Norwalk train station, but through our community outreach and through our discussions, throughout the plan, we really realized, you can only unlock so much before the infrastructure becomes so strained that it makes it difficult to realize the full potential. So what we want to do and what we've done is develop the scope and budget for these sort of supportive infrastructure improvements to make sure that the development that's being proposed actually works within the context of the community. One of the biggest things that we've heard in the community outreach process is connectivity is extremely important, and that we need to make sure that all users are being considered throughout the whole station area and as it relates to adjacent neighborhoods in the community. Again, there's a large community outreach and workforce development focus related to this grant. It's also related to our plan, so it fits very well within the context of the program. And we've been looking at ways to team it up with different development initiatives that we have throughout the city to provide supportive infrastructure from a corridor perspective rather than just a site-by-site. So in terms of the overall grant, the total project, as was referenced, is $11.7 million. The actual grant would be $5.8 million, and the actual anticipated cash match would be $3.9 million. The reason why there's the difference in relation to the 50% grant match requirement is that the redevelopment agency has recently obtained a $600,000 grant from EPA that could be used and attributable to this as project match. in addition to anticipated land value contribution for some of the right-of-way that could be would be a component of the roadway construction improvements. In terms of the detail of that 11.7 million, the way that it's currently scoped builds from our federal RAISE grant application, which we were unfortunately unsuccessful, but is very well positioned to be utilized for this program. $8.5 million would be allocated for roadway improvements to include streetscapes, bike lanes, sort of green infrastructure improvements along MLK, Chestnut, Monroe, and Henry Street, right directly around the train station site. 2.1 million would be focused on undergrounding of utilities, particularly along Chestnut Street, and another 1.1 million would be focused to offer funds for the improvement of existing affordable housing in the area, really recognizing that we want to make sure that the funds are allocated for all users, everyone in the community. Because one of the biggest, another large component of the study is how do we handle equity and inclusion as part of our work. So we're really trying to create a comprehensive funding program within the context of this $11.7 million and leverage the existing grants that we've had and existing resources to minimize the cash match contribution while still maximizing the amount of money that the city can receive from external sources such as the state and Department of Economic and Community Development. So what's before you tonight is a resolution that would authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to support the pursuit of the Community Challenge Grant and a good faith effort that we will obtain the 50% that is required to match should we be awarded these funds. So with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions and discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Badoli. Mr. Burnett, do you have any follow-up comments or does anybody else have any questions?
I have no direct follow-up comments. Again, I just want to emphasize that what we're approving is the application process, which is time sensitive. The application will be submitted around the mid-January timeframe, and that's why it's before the council right now. No funds will be distributed or allocated. This is just the application process. And should we become successful in the grant, then again, the funding will go through the capital budget approval process for the matching grant segment of the grant.
Thank you. I think Ms. Young and then Ms. Ayers.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a comment, and I just want to thank the redevelopment agency and Brian for all your work and all the work you've been doing with the South Norwalk community and also the Economic and Community Development Department with Jessica Vonashek and her staff. So I just appreciate it and hope that we get this grant award. Thank you.
I actually want to echo what my fellow councilwoman Young has brought forward and hoping good success in the submission of this grant. I know that we have begun to ask some questions, and another one of my colleagues did reach out to the redevelopment agency in regards to the $1 million surrounding the investment of affordable or sustainable housing. And I just wanted in this platform to lift that up, that we really need to be turning as a city to look for multiple ways where we can, when possible, interject green building around sustainability and living for all citizens. I am happy to hear about the robust work that is being done in South Norwalk and eager to see other projects happen throughout our city. Really hoping that when we do get the grant, fingers crossed, that you can come back and we can work more collaboratively with you around the area of green building and sustainability.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Mr. Goldstein.
I could not agree with what Councilmember Ayers said and Councilmember Young said more. As a South Norwalk resident myself, I am incredibly encouraged by this grant, and I hope I too will, knock on wood, fingers crossed, do whatever I got to do to hope this thing passes. Brian, if for some reason this doesn't work out, what are some contingency plans? What are other grant applications you're thinking about to try and achieve these goals? what sort of, so that so we can say we're cautiously optimistic. What else are you thinking about?
Yeah, definitely. So, when we sort of set out on this, the whole, part of the goal was to identify a work program that we could go and be competitive for a lot of grant opportunities. So we actually went for the federal raise program in this last round. Unfortunately, we were not successful, but the federal government has allocated an additional $7.5 billion to Connecticut in raise. So should we not be successful through DCD, we'll definitely be pursuing that. I think this program in general, it just hits all the marks for a lot of different funding agencies, from USDOT to EPA, FTA. So I think there's a lot of good narrative built around, and we will be aggressively pursuing any and all opportunities that come available to make these projects come to reality.
Further comments or questions?
I have just one question. If we are successful in gaining this grant, do we happen to know what the timeline is for when we'll find that out and how we can put that into effect?
Yeah, so the DCD has noticed that they're going to announce awards about March or April. There would be obviously a contracting period that would occur. So I'd say probably sometime in the summer, we'd probably be able to get things moving.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any further comments or questions? Ms. Revoluz?
Just a comment. I'm just going to say thank you, Brian, for hearing what I've been pushing toward this. You've done a great job, and I do appreciate the mayor and you and our town just being innovative and giving our residents different opportunities to better themselves here, especially in a financial setting.
Thank you, Ms. Revoluz. Any further discussion or comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Livingston, I believe under suspension of rules.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to add an item.
Okay, we need a 2/3 majority to do that. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. We have our 2/3 majority. Mr. Livingston.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and read the item, and then we can ask Mr. Callahan to speak to it. The item is to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute the subdivision Janssen Settlement Participation Form to participate in the nationwide settlements to resolve all opioids litigation brought by states and local political subdivisions against the manufacturer Janssen Pharmaceuticals and its parent company, Johnson & Johnson. Also authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute the subdivision distributor settlement participation form to participate in the nationwide settlements to resolve all opioid litigation brought by states and local political subdivisions against the distributor McKesson, Cardinal Health, and Amerisource Bergen. And I move the item, and I will turn it over to Mr. Callahan, who is prepared to answer any questions you might have.
Councilmember Livingston?
Yes.
Before you move it, I just want to put on the record that I'm recusing myself from this conversation and will be stepping off.
All right, thank you. Darren, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, sure. So if there's no preliminary questions, I'll just give a general overview of where we're at. So we're involved with essentially the rest of the governmental agencies throughout the country in litigation against opioid manufacturers and distributors. In this case, we're talking about Johnson & Johnson, which is the parent company to Janssen as the manufacturers, and the distributors being McKesson and two other of the largest manufacturers for opioids. Essentially, the states attorney generals throughout the country have gotten to a point where they were able to reach a tentative settlement agreement regarding all these claims. in a class action setting. And now we're at a point where each state and their municipalities are need to decide whether to opt in to that settlement agreement. So that's what we're being presented here today is to authorize the opt-in to participate in the settlement fund that essentially the attorney generals throughout the country have negotiated.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Mr. Livingston, any further discussion or comment?
I don't have any. Just open it up for anyone else.
Does any council person have any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Ms.
Thank you,
Revolus?
Alan.
Great, thank you, council.
Ms. Revolus?
You're funny. Anyway, before I do that motion, I do want to say one thing before we go. There's one, since we're not going to be seeing each other on the 28th, there is one more holiday that we didn't speak of. And being the representative that for that community, I just want to say a happy Independence Day to the Haitian community on January 1st. We are a heavy, resilient people, and there's a lot we're going through. It's not forgotten. We appreciate Norwalk for combining and trying to be an ally to the Haitian community. So with that, I just want to say make a lot of soup and happy Independence Day. And hopefully we will all be meeting after this, but I would love to give a motion to close.
Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Ms. Revolus had made a motion to close or adjourn.
Adjourn, sorry, I lost the word. Motion to adjourn, guys.
All in favor? Thank you very much, and thank you for your time, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Is everyone still going?
No, I don't think people are going to go now.
Okay, because I'm tired. Great.
I think everybody's
Okay.
tired, so we'll have to reschedule for another night.
Please, I appreciate that. I'm going to bed. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.